Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Wyatt Wagersons. I'm one of the owners here at Bookworks in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Before we begin, I just want to honor the Tiwa people who are the original stewards of this land, where the bookstore is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it's important. And I just want to welcome you all here. If you have questions and you don't want to raise your hand during Q&A, if you want to pop it in the chat, you can message me directly. I'll put my name up here in just a second. And or you can raise your hand during Q&A. I'll pass it over to Patricia Perea from the NHCC. We're doing this event in partnership with Red Planet Books, who you should definitely support. The Native American indigenous comic book store here in Albuquerque. They are awesome. I'll put their link in the chat. Reactions, definitely go to the chat, would be great. And y'all are muted, so thank you so much. And with that, I will pass that along to Patricia and Stephen. Welcome. It's so glad to have you both. And I will mute myself because who needs to hear me anyway?
Well, I like hearing you, but okay. So welcome everybody to tonight's event with Stephen Graham Jones. So I have the book here. I hope everybody has it with them. This is it, Memorial Ride, published by University of New Mexico Press and Red Planet Comics and Books in 2021. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Stephen. Stephen Graham Jones is the New York Times best-selling author of nearly 30 novels and collections. And there's some novellas and comic books in there as well. Most recent are The Only Good Indians and My Heart is a Chainsaw. Up next is Don't Fear the Reaper. Stephen lives and teaches in Boulder, Colorado, but I also have to say is from very close to my hometown, which is Midland, Texas. Not my hometown. He's from Midland, Texas. I'm from West Texas. But anyway, yeah, so I've had several conversations with different people about your work. And so it's really, really exciting to get to have this conversation with you virtually, in person, and with everybody who's joining us. So welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's an honor to talk to you. It's an honor to be at Bookworks again. I haven't been here for a while. Hopefully next time in person, that's always the most fun. But thank y'all, everybody, for showing up on Zoom. I know that like Zoom sucks all our souls out through our eyes, but so you like volunteering for a little more of that action it means a lot. Thank you very much. And I will, I guess I should tell you where Memorial Ride comes from before I read from it. Back in, I want to say 2015, it could have been 2016, right around there, I kind of fell into a John Wayne hole, which is like one of the like 3 worst holes you can fall into. Who wants to be in a John Wayne hole? And but for some reason one summer I had to read everything I could about John Wayne and watch as many of the Westerns as I could tolerate. They're kind of the same thing over and over, but I mean, there's the standout ones that everybody knows. And then I'd read books about those Westerns. And in retrospect, I realized that it wasn't John Wayne I was interested in. It was like John Wayne is kind of representative of one of the, well, I say one of, maybe the foundational myth of America, that of the Old West. He's the cowboy. Like Charlie Daniels, doesn't he say in one of his songs, he wishes John Wayne had lived to run for president? I think there's a lot of people out there who believe that as well. And I feel like what I was watching all those movies for and reading all that stuff about John Wayne for was I wanted to take the knees out of that, of that specter of the cowboy who crests a mountain range, looks down into an uninhabited valley, and he's like, oh, this is great, this is beautiful, I'm going to put my house here by this creek and all. And because that valley was not uninhabited, there were people there for 10,000, 20,000 years. So I guess another way to say this is my very first novel, which also burns all across New Mexico in a Trans Am in a Cadillac, not a motorcycle. But the biggest argument I had with the copy editor was they wanted me to actually use a capital letter for America, like capital A America. And I said, I'm not going to do that. We can just not publish this book. I don't care, because I'm not capitalizing America, and I think that 21 years later, I'm still doing, that's still what I'm doing. I'm still trying to uncapitalize America, decapitalize America, make it not the center. And the way I'm doing it this time is trying to come at John Wayne a little bit. And I guess the way I'm coming at him right now is, number one, by putting a native dude at the center of the story, but more so the bad guys in this story are the John Wayne gang. And in my initial conception of this story, some drugstore stick-up artists, basically. They wore a John Wayne mask, like they were bank robbers. They pull over John Wayne masks. But I didn't anticipate how truly difficult that would be for an artist to both draw and individualize. Like, how do you draw 4 masks of 4 drugstore robbers and keep them individual so we can tell who's who? And then do that from panel to panel. That's a heck of a task. So we backed off, and I thought of another reason for them to be called the John Waynes, and they wore like train robber bandanas across their face. I should synopsize a little bit, or set up what I'm about to read. So Coopertown, he's deployed over in Afghanistan. He's very estranged from his father. He gets word that his father has died. He doesn't care, but legally, technically, he can elect to go home for the funeral. And he's in the brig at the time for punching out his commanding officer. And so he does that. He makes the long flight home, befriends a couple of soldiers on that flight home. And he's just using his father's funeral as an excuse to be with his girlfriend for a couple of days. Sherry Moon, spelled M-U-N, not like Rob Zombie's girlfriend, or wife, I should say. And so he gets to Oklahoma, where his father was, and ends up inheriting his father's old Harley that his dad was always leaving on. It's a rattle trap old bike. And he finds out he can sell that Harley for $3,000 in Mexico. There's somebody who will pay guaranteed money for it. So he and Sherry take off for New Mexico, little 2-day adventure for them. And he has to be on a plane at the end of his 48 hours, or he's AWOL and he's in big trouble. They stop at a drugstore, and this happens to be a drugstore that's currently being held up by the John Wayne gang. And one of the other soldiers that Coop came across with is in there, and he doesn't meet a good end exactly, as you'll see in this thing I'm about to read, this piece I'm going to read. And Coopertown, his response to everything is to punch it. He's not like, let's have some words about this. He's like, I'm just going to punch it. And so he punches out one of the John Wayne gang, and then he has to run instead of stick around and talk to the police, which means, as far as the state troopers are concerned, he's part of the gang. He's one of the people who fled the scene. And now he's got the John Wayne gang mad at him. So he's got the police chasing him, the state police chasing him. He's got the John Wayne gang chasing him, trying to kill him, and Sherry Moon as well. And he's all over the news, and all he wants is to get to New Mexico, sell that bike for $3,000, and then fly back to the desert to sit in the brig some more, basically. And it's hard, because it's hard to live in this story. Everybody wants to kill you. And I'll throw some images up here, and I'll read it aloud as I click through it. My initial plan for this was I wanted to show you all the art from Memorial Ride without the lettering, without the speech bubbles and captions, so I could supply the words out loud. But I realized really fast that kind of sucks, because I don't know what to say, so I need to have the words up there so I can actually read them. So let's see if I can get this screen share happening. Can I? Wait, can I? All right, getting closer. Yeah, here we go. Boom. All right, y'all can all see the cover, right? All right, it's working. Memorial Ride. Look at that beautiful cover that Maria Wolf did. That is amazing. I want to have that like tattooed on my forehead or something, so everybody has to look at it all the time. She's so amazing. When Lee Francis of Red Planet introduced me to her, he also, of course, kind of gave me her portfolio, and I was immediately smitten with her work because she can draw werewolves like nobody else. And that to me is kind of like my threshold for if you're a good artist, if you can draw a werewolf. Maria can draw werewolves all day long, so she was definitely the right person for this. And I should talk about how this book happened too a little bit. So there's that. Let me stop this share so I can talk to you. Sorry. There's that summer that I fall into that John Wayne hole, and then I come out of it with my head full of John Wayne stuff. So I write this book, and I write this script actually. And I know it needs to be a comic book because I want it to move like a comic book. I don't want it to move like fiction. I don't want it to move like a movie or a television series. I want it to move like a comic book. So I write as a comic book, but I have no artist in mind. I have no prospects for getting it published. So what that means I do is I overwrite the script because I think the script is the final stage this thing is ever going to get to. It's not going to go any further. It's only ever going to be a script. So I overwrite it. I talk about how each panel should look and feel and the angle of this and the shadow of that, and just, you know, all the granular stuff that really should be the artist province, not really my province. Like, I think as writer, I'm kind of a little bit in charge of the story beats and whatever words show up in whatever places. But as for the layout and the angles and the art, all that, I think that's the artist. The artist can figure all that out. Luckily, Mariah Wolf is a good enough artist that she was able to look past all my clutter and like highlight the 12 words on the page that mattered and disregard the 500 other words, you know, and just draw what needed to be there. So it was really, really nice to work with her. And before, so I have this script sitting around, and then New Mexico Press, I guess, gets to talking to Lee Francis at Red Planet. And they're like, hey, we're both cool. We should do something together. I guess I'm imagining that's how it happened. I'm not sure how it happened, but that's my suspicion. And they said, I guess they said, who can we have do the first book? And I had worked with them on a thing or two before. So they called me up and they said, hey, we're thinking about doing a comic book. Are you game for that? Would you be willing to write a script? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And, you know, secretly I'm thinking I've got a script, you know? And so then like a week later, I'll go over my script and I send it to him, and it's all good from there, you know? And we're off to the races, and now we got this book, which is amazing. So that's how it happened. Go back to the share screen here. Oh, wait, I keep messing something up. There we go. All right, and y'all can all see that cover again. I'm restarting here. All right. Oh, it's supposed to click. There we go. Each part, like the Memorial Ride is in 4 parts, and each part is, I want to say 22 pages long, which is how long a single issue comic book is. I wanted to kind of, with Memorial Ride, like, I don't know, foster the illusion that it came out as a 4-issue limited series, and this is the trade paperback of that, you know? So each issue has its own cover and its own tagline on the cover. Part 2, which I'm going to read from, the tagline is "Some rides you have to make." That's Coopertown right there. That's Sherry Moon back there. That's a Mustang that they drive for about 2 pages. But if you got a Mustang, you put it on the cover, you know, you don't wait around. I keep clicking. Oh, there we go. All right, page 1. Oh, this isn't page 1, it's page like 30, I think. They're 286 miles from Albuquerque. Coop is trying to learn to drive his dad's Harley, and he is not having the best luck with that. Thought it was 1 down, 3 up, scrunch, clank, wanted by the authorities. Probably wanted by the bad guys, honk, honk, honk. I love how Lee did the dialogue balloon in front of the SFX there. That's good, that's good design. This is Sherry. He think I can't cut that mustache out by the roots. Sherry's always got a blade on her, and she's really willing to use it. Coop, I was doing it perfect earlier. Neither's gonna look good for the court-martial board. What? Cooper says, I can't hear you. I said, does my hair really look like that? Like on the news? I love this little image of Sherry Moon. That's her personality exactly. Your hair looks good. It always looks good. There they are on the news. It's hair, I mean. Zipping around in traffic, almost dying. So you knew him, that other soldier from the plane ride in the drugstore? His name was Street. Fourth. He was thirsty. So he had to pee a lot. Tucumcari, New Mexico. We got 5 minutes. Not if we go through the same door, soldier boy, and lock it. Coop is seriously considering this. We may not live to see tomorrow, I mean, Sherry says. Cooper, I love this little, I love that exclamation point, you know, because I feel like a lot of us walk around with these exclamation points outside our head like this, you know. We need to get that $3,000 for the bike. Baseball. Baseball terms, go. Foul ball, home run, rounding second base. He's going to make it. He's sliding to home. He's safe. Coop. Sherry's already limbering that blade up. Listen, I was there, the DPS officer says, the trooper. I know what really happened at that drugstore. Trust me, these John Waynes, they aren't taking any prisoners. Safest place for you two is in the back of my car. Whoa, take her easy there, Pilgrim. Don't you know, Cabrera? Out here, due process is a bullet. Marion, is that you? I swear, if you don't, you'll arrest me. Write on the report that twice in one day somebody got the drop on you. You've been watching the news again, haven't you? Moccasin Telegraph, chica. You best get on that bad motorcycle there, Pilgrim. I can't hold this much longer. Jail here, jail there, or $3,000. Kid, listen. The John Waynes, they're painting the walls with people back there. You seriously piss them off. You don't want Kid? He can fly 10,000 miles across the ocean, shoot people he doesn't know, people he has to live with in his head now, and you still call him Kid? I don't know who you think you're talking to, Miss Moon. Sit down, Marion. She sprayed him in the face with that mace or pepper spray, I guess it is. I don't think you know who you're talking to, Miss Culebra. That means snake, yeah. Cabrera. Actually, it means goat herder. Coop, let's go get our money. What do you call a young, stupid goat who needs herding? Kid. But you're just done with your father's funeral. Nothing makes you feel like a kid so much as thinking about your dad. Nothing makes you feel like a kid so much as having one. From a jail cell or a brig, if you're lucky. If you're not, another funeral, another flag. So, Coop, twist on that throttle, and we blast off into the rest of Memorial Ride. And I should also. Coopertown is named after the place where the Baseball Hall of Fame is, and that's about the sum total of everything I know about baseball. But his dad wanted to play baseball, not be a soldier. That's what's important. And of course, Marion. Y'all probably all know that that's John Wayne's real name. So I thought it was really fun to name a dude with braids Marion, the real John Wayne. But thank y'all for watching me click through that and listening to me blather on. Thank you.
All right, so does anybody have anything they want to ask or any comments they want to make? I know I'm amazed anybody that can survive a John Wayne hole. That's that's impressive. I've gone as far as the Searchers.
Yeah.
And
Searchers
I think that's as far as we've gone.
Yeah. Let's see. What's the character name of Searchers? Is it Ethan? Yeah, I think it's Ethan.
Yeah, it's Ethan.
Yeah. And he's after Scar, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Scar is played by a white dude, if I remember correctly. And
yeah, they're Comanches in the Four Corners, right?
I know, which is really weird. Monument Valley. What are they doing there? And if I understand correctly, they're all wearing headbands when they ride their horses. But the reason they're wearing headbands is to keep their wigs on,
Yeah, that's a great story. The whole John Wayne summer. That's its own poem, all on its own. Does anybody want to add anything or have any comments? Please feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You spend as much time. Well, first of all, it's great to see you here. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
You spend as much time, or how much time do you spend working on a graphic novel as opposed to one of your other novels?
Yeah, for me, writing fiction is a much quicker process than writing a comic script, because when I'm writing either a story, a novella, a novel, whatever it is, I've got, like, if I'm writing a novel, I've got either 160 pages or I've got 619 pages. It doesn't matter. I can go however many words I want, pretty much, but if I'm writing a comic book, especially a monthly book, which I'm about to be doing for someone, then I have 22 pages every 30 days, and I have to think ahead how much story fits in 22 pages. Is that 22nd page a delivery for the next issue? And also I have to think in terms of panels and pages, what fits on this page and what fits on this tier, and how do you get from this tier to that tier, and how do you navigate the page and all this stuff. A lot of the stuff the artist solves like instinctually, or I don't know how she or he does it, but I do have to think about story units, which is to say I have to plan things out. I have to kind of outline, and that's not natural to me, outlining. When I outline stuff, that to me just kills it. I'm like, I don't want to write this anymore. I know how it goes, But with comic books, I have to. And they don't feel dead when I write them at all. Like fiction tends to feel kind of dead if I outline it first, which that's just the way it is for me. I'm not saying that's the right way, or that's the way it is for everybody. But yeah, comic scripts to me are a lot more work. And the funny thing is, a comic script might take like 30 pages or 22 pages might take me 2 weeks to write, which is a long time for a sum total of like, I don't know, 4,000 words or something. But somebody will pick it up and read it in 3 minutes, whereas a novel, it'll take you, or a story that was similar length, it'll take you 30, 40 minutes to peel through 4,000 words, so it's weird. It's weird to watch somebody read a comic that you've poured so many hours into, but they can just breathe through it. That's how you write it to move fast. It's got to.
Do you create your own storyboard for that type of thing? Are you an artist?
I'm not remotely. I did another comic book, My Hero, which I didn't have an artist for. And so I did kind of storyboard that one out. But instead of supplying art within the panels, I did everything with text. It was kind of like a script broken up into storyboard units, and it was really fun. And it's published like that. It was fun for me to do. I don't know if it's fun to read for anybody, but it was a blast for me to do. But if a page is giving me grief, if I can't figure out what's actually going to fit on the page, I will get a little, one of my little pads out, and I'll sketch it out in like extremely reduced fashion and just see what I think will fit. I'm not like writing all the words down. I'm just like throwing a balloon here, a balloon there, a caption box here, and stick figures here and there. And it does help to do that, but it's not my first impulse. I don't think visually like that. I think textually, if that's even an option,
In the chat, I'm sorry, Sue, go ahead.
No, I said thank you.
Thank you.
In the chat, Sean or Shane, not sure. How old were you when you started writing? How many novels or projects do you have in progress?
I was 19 when I wrote my first story. And how many things do I have in process right now? I'll take process to mean production, I guess, in which case I have Don't Fear the Reaper, the sequel to My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is out in August 2nd of 22. I have a haunted house novel, which is shifting titles right now, so I don't know what it's going to be, but it's coming out, I think, in March or April in the spring. And it's going to be revised heavily, which is to say it's not completely working right now. They never are at first. And I also have a slasher novel that happens all across I-80 across Wyoming that it'll be in notes pretty soon. I'm pulling a story collection together, for the publisher. They want that, which is going to be fun. And I have to write some new stuff for that. I am in the outline stage with a couple editors for a comic book that I'm doing that I can't announce yet. Can't even announce the house yet that I'm with, I don't think. And let me think, is that all? And also I'm kind of in what I consider the notes phase of the third My Heart is a Chainsaw book, the third Indian Lake trilogy book. But the notes section is getting all out of hand. It's getting way too big. It's like becoming a novel itself,
Thank you. I want to add to Sue's comment real quick, and to your answer to it, which is whenever I read graphic novels, it takes longer.
Oh, it does.
Than it does
Nice.
in novels because of the images. Because I spend so much time looking at the images, trying to figure out how it's related to what's in the bubble. Graphic novels always take me longer.
Oh, that's really interesting. I wonder why. I tend to read comic books pretty fast, unless it's like what's that Alan Moore Jack the Ripper one? What's that one called? From Hell. From like the book like From Hell takes like you slog through that one. It's a slow burn, But like when I read Saga, like I flip through Saga so fast because it's really light on text. It's heavy on art, and it's wonderful to look at all that beautiful art, but it's light on text, and so it just breezes past because I think I don't like study the images as close as I should. So I suspect I'm missing stuff, but that kind of to me is a compliment to the propulsiveness of the story. It's pulling me through fast. I want to know what happens next, so I'm just turning those pages as fast as I can.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Olivia says, super excited to hear there will be a sequel to My Heart is a Chainsaw. Can't wait to read how Jade makes it out of that last bit at the end. On My Heart is a Chainsaw, do you have any favorite recent horror films?
Yeah, I really liked Halloween Kills. I thought that was a great time. Before that, The Vigil, it's on Hulu now. That kind of got to me. It was pretty scary to me. It's about a dude sitting Shiva over with a dead body in a living room. So it's a really simple pared down story, but it gets really pretty creepy.
Mark Frederick writes, I just finished My Heart is a Chainsaw and I sense how much of yourself is in that book. What drew you to horror as a genre? What were some of the horror novels and movies that were impactful to you growing up?
I think the most impactful novel for me was Whitley Strieber's Wolfen. I read that, I think, when I was 12, and I really like, the same way, like in the fourth Twilight book, Jacob imprints on Bella's newborn daughter, which is kind of creepy, I think I imprinted on Wolfen, because there's chapters in Wolfen from the like grandfather Wolf's voice, from his point of view, and um, those chapters to me were the most amazing thing I had ever read. I could not imagine how you can inhabit the voice of a werewolf, or the wolfen. They're not technically werewolves, but of the wolfen anyways. And I read those chapters over and over and over. And I think that in everything I write, I'm still probably trying to write those chapters. I'm trying to crawl deep enough inside something like that, and not surprisingly, one of the very first horror movies I ever stumbled into when I was also 12 was The Howling, Joe Dante's The Howling. And my mind was just blown. I mean, looking back on it, you see like the claymation werewolves, and looking back, I can tell they're this tall. But man, when I was a kid, they were full size, and I completely believed in them. And I could just feel like fireworks going off in my head, because my world was changing to allow werewolves into it. And so, yeah, Wolfen and The Howling were probably two of my formative horror experiences, and maybe they're the reason I'm still with horror. I don't really know. I mean, I've done a lot of other genres too, but horror is what I always come back to, and horror is always also what I have to keep my other stuff from becoming. Like, naturally, whatever story I'm writing, if it gets boring, I'm like, well, let's just cut off somebody's head. But I remember that this is not that kind of story. I can't cut off everybody's head in this story, so it's kind of tricky.
Priscilla Ibarra says, hi, Stephen, great to see you in work.
Hello.
How about another genre challenge? What are your ideas for a video game?
Oh man.
Next question.
In one of my novels, It's Bird Is Gone, I think, I have it's set in a bowling alley, and one of the games in the arcade, it's a stand-up game, is called Red Dawn, and it's about trying to paint North America red again, and I think that would be a really fun video game. I think it would maybe it would be prelude to actually doing it. That's always the hope.
All right, thank you. That's a great question. And she
Priscilla, it's great to hear from you. I haven't seen you for forever.
Anybody else have any thoughts, questions?
Hi, I wanted to know, hi Patricia, how are you?
Good.
You. Hi, Stephen.
Hello.
I wanted to know, you had mentioned earlier that you had to cut down this writing process a lot. And I wanted to know, with something that's more visual based, how does that affect your craft? And I also wanted to know if we could expect to see any movie renditions of your works anytime soon.
I was just talking with someone today about a place that's interested in Memorial Ride. So that'd be really cool. I'd love to see Memorial Ride on a big screen. I think it would be high octane. There's not a lot of down moments in Memorial Ride, because I think I'm a big fan of young adult fiction, young adult novels, and my definition of them is always it's kind of like adult novels with all the boring parts taken out, and I'm like, but I think, like, why can't I just write novels with no boring parts? Because like that's always that's the hardest part for me, when I have a chapter where the character isn't like facing off against an octopus or dealing with the moon falling down or something. I'm like, what are we doing? We're just sitting in a room, and I get so bored, you know? So I want to write novels that are just bam, bam, bam. And Memorial Ride is a book that does that. It's just bam, 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 to me anyways. But as for how to like pare a story down and work with like that visual element, I think the trick is you have to understand that you're not the sole creator of this, that you are handing over a lot of the execution and expression to the artist who actually has talent in that field. I don't actually have talent in that field at all. And therefore I can't like see things the same way an artist can, I don't think. And, you know, I say I think, but my daughter is an artist, and we try to talk about it, about, you know, like drawing or art, and she has ways into it that I just cannot even conceive of. It's just so alien to me, and it's wonderful too. But it makes me realize that I need to stay with words. You know, that's where I belong. So the trick, I think the trick is understanding that you're not the sole credit. You know, that you're kind of a co-creator of this, and the artist is going to realize it in ways that you wouldn't have guessed, and they're going to probably do it better than your best dream. You know, they're gonna really, what a good artist does is they find a way to do something with I don't know, with just the lines, with the art, with the panel movement, with the gutters, with the borders, with all of it, that erases your words. And that's always the best. Like and that progression of panels that I showed you, my favorite panel is that one where Coop, there's no words, it's just Coop's face, and we have to like ascribe or extract his thoughts, basically. Those are the panels to me that are the strongest in comic books, the silent panels. And Neil Gaiman, he talks about that somewhere. He says that that's something that's very peculiar to comic books. It's not, you don't have it in film, on television, you don't have it on the page. In comic books, you can have no words, but still a lot of communication, a lot of story to unpack. You know, like even with a film, you're probably gonna have a score in the background or something, but with comic books, you're looking at Coop thinking about something, you know, and it can really work, I think.
Nice.
Thank you, Sophia.
Awesome.
Any other questions or comments? I have a question. Where would you say your work, because your work is horror fiction for sure, but not all of it, but where would you say it fits in kind of the indigenous writing in the United States sort of, you know, legacy, if you want to put yourself there? I don't know if you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think whether I would put myself there or not, I think my stuff gets put there, you know. I mean, the trick is, like in the marketplace and in the critical establishment too, you've always got to be wary of anybody putting an adjective in front of your name, like, you know, Native American. He's a Native American writer, because all that adjective is a handle they can use to pick you up and put you over here and not think about you anymore. You know, it's the first step of disposing of you, basically. And so what I always want to do is just be a writer, and I am a Blackfeet writer. I think everything I do is Blackfeet, but it doesn't have to be like like a marquee above me. You know, this dude is Blackfeet and the story is Blackfeet. I don't like that kind of I don't know, delivery or encasement, whatever you would call it. But you know, what is it like? It was probably 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Rebecca Roanhorse's Trail of Lightning came out, and that was a book that didn't slow down to ask permission. You know, I mean, it made a lot of people mad, but that's good. I think if you're making the traditionals mad, then you're doing the good stuff. You know, you've got to make people nervous. But there's like American Indian fiction, it's almost like there's gatekeepers, and those gatekeepers are the critics, the reviewers, the professors, and they have a certain toolkit by which they can analyze and discuss these works. And those toolkits are like, the tools are, it comes from the oral tradition, it deals with the politics of identity, we're talking about repatriation here, all those different things. And so when a book comes to that gate, they look at it and, does it fit this, does it fit that, does it fit that? And if it doesn't do the things that they already have tools for, they push it back, and it doesn't make it to the market, the shelf, the classroom. But what Rebecca Roanhorse did with Trail of Lightning, she was like, screw y'all. She just like jumped over the gate and went straight to the market and told a really engaging, wonderful, rocking story. And I feel like she opened the gate for a lot of us, really. And, you know, she got to the other side and she pushed it open. And there's a lot of us coming through that no longer have to shape our work to satisfy people who only know how to take it apart in certain ways, you know. And and I think there's also a conception that if you're writing native stuff, or if you're native writing stuff, maybe that's the way to say it, because we're considered like, I don't know, in our infancy or toddlerhood as far as literature creation goes, fiction creation, that if fiction is a tree, we have to stay close to the trunk. We have to do like realism for a while, maybe a tinge with magical realism, that'll be cute, but we have to stay close to the trunk. And whereas like fantasy, science fiction, and horror, all that is way out on the thin limbs, way up high. But I think the best thing that we can be doing right now is just running up to those high limbs and going racing out to the end of them. Maybe they're going to break, but that's where we need to be. We don't have to stay close to the trunk at all, because we're not in our infancy storytelling wise. We've been doing this for quite a long time.
Oh, thank you. That makes my heart happy. I want to say too, that was one of the laugh out loud moments for Memorial Ride for me the whole time, which was whenever he was correcting Blackfeet. I was like, that is awesome. Like everywhere that was, I was like, this is spectacular. It's just like little side notes and the little asterisks, man.
Those are fun. Those are, I'm so glad that Red Planet and UNM let me do those footnotes, those asterisks. But yeah, that Blackfeet, that Blackfeet Blackfoot thing comes from, like, when people do my book design, my book jackets, I'm always on the back cover, like little in the corner or the flap or wherever. They do a little bio under me, like Stephen Graham Jones, you know, he's this, that, and the other. And Blackfeet is sometimes one of my descriptors. But the first draft of that I see, I'm nearly always Blackfoot, because the book designer says, well, I know you're Blackfeet, but you're just one Blackfeet. You must be Blackfoot, you know? And so I'm always having to push back against that.
I loved that. That literally made me laugh out loud the whole time. The other thing I want to say, and Jessica, I see your comment and I'll read it in just a second. But the other thing I wanted to say is, for those of us who were growing up in the 90s, right, where it's like Anne Rice, you know, Stephen King was pretty popular. Like a lot of kids in my high school were reading that when I was in, you know, like 9th, 10th grade. Do you know how amazing it would have been to have come across a novel, a book, a graphic novel, young adult, whatever, representing me? And I would have been like, oh my God, all of this makes so much sense. Instead, I was having to make do with vampires in like 19th century France.
Yeah, you make do. And you know what I did coming up, because there weren't any representations of us, you know, in the pages, on the screens, anywhere. So what I ended up doing was abducting people into my little tribe, you know, like I stole Conan the Barbarian. I thought he's got to be Blackfeet, you know, he's from the far north, and you know, he's pretty wicked. And I stole John McClane from Die Hard, because he's using guerrilla tactics and he's funny, you know. Who I really stole, talking about the Wolfen, was Edward James Olmos's character in that. He's a high steel construction worker, and I really liked him. Who else did I steal? Oh, who I was like most proud to have, you know, alongside me abducted, I guess, would be Billy Soul from Predator. You know, that dude is bad. Like he gets to a point where he's like, you know, I'm just not going to run anymore. I'm going to stand on this log and I'm going to fight whatever this thing is. I'm going to fight it. And the predator, of course, it's a predator. It kills him. But the predator doesn't save trophies from all its victims. It only saves trophies from those kills which were difficult, which were a challenge, which were a worthy hunt, worthy prey. He does save Billy Soul's head, you know, which means this dude stood up against this amazing, terrible alien, you know. So he was my favorite, probably.
Awesome. Thank you for speaking that with me. Okay, so Jessica says, I loved Memorial Ride. Will we be seeing any more of Coopertown? Also, when are you coming back to North Carolina?
Oh no, I need to be there. I was just there, was it 2 months ago or something, it seems like, but and it was a great time. I think Coopertown's story is probably done. I think it would be like over the course of the book, what he's got to deal with. I mean, he's got to deal with survival, but that's not really what you base a character arc on. What he's got to deal with is trying to reconcile with the shadow or specter or memory of his dead father. That's and also his own like fatherhood. So I feel like by the end of the story, he has dealt with that. I would feel especially cruel to yank him back in and say, all right, Coop, now somebody else is dead. You're coming back to America and you're going to go on another big chase across the country. I would feel bad about that. Yes, as a writer, you're cruel to your characters. You have to be. And I put Coop through it in this story. He has some unpleasant experiences to the extreme, but I feel like he's kind of been delivered out of the story now. And he's just going to go on and have his life, and I'm happy for him.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else want to add something? Have any comments?
This is awesome.
Thank you.
Like I said, this is the kind of fiction I loved as a kid. I still love it. And it would have been amazing to have seen this growing up. That would have been
Man, I'm so happy for the kids coming up now who get to watch Reservation Dogs and Rutherford Falls and stuff, and not have to abduct people into their tribe, And,
I know, I'm
like
trying to think who I abducted. It's like, I think maybe because I was crushed out on him in The Outsiders, I adopted Ralph Macchio.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that totally was somebody I brought in to my experience. But I think, and that you brought up Rebecca Roanhorse is awesome too, because I really, I really do love what you said about moving away kind of into the branches, when it comes to Indigenous literature, because young adult fiction, science fiction, all of that is, I think, one of those genres where we never, ever really give ourselves permission to write, because we're supposed to be writing the serious stuff.
Yeah.
And this, I think, is so serious, right? And that's one of the questions I had too about Memorial Right, which Coopertown's dad was a veteran too, right? And what war was he in? Was it Desert Storm? I couldn't figure it out.
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was in the early 90s. That's probably when he was. Yeah.
So I, again, like I said, and I love that part of it too, because to bring so much of the narrative into the last 20 or 30 years is awesome. And I say this all the time, like, I love them, mad respect to the Native writers who came, before, but to bring us into 2021 is awesome.
I know.
Because that's where we are.
Yeah, that's where we are, exactly. And I love it when like our work goes like worldwide, because I mean, I'm not saying that people in France and Spain are like ignorant or anything, but their conception of Native people is a little bit different than over here. I'm not saying it's great here in the first place, but I think over there it's a little different. And so if we can give them stories that are set, in contemporary times, they can maybe stop and say, oh yeah, this is them people are still hopping around. I can't believe that, and it is good to be hopping around.
Awesome. Anybody want to put anything in the chat or unmute yourself? We've got plenty of time, and I know you all have stuff to say, so don't be shy. Anybody?
I have a question. Do any of you like working in the horror genre? Like, do any of your books or characters from your books that you've already written like haunt you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, the Only Good Indians, actually. There's somebody who dies in the Only Good Indians who I'll always feel guilty for, killing her. I didn't want to kill her, but it's a horror novel, and if everybody's alive at the end of the horror novel, then you fail. So you gotta kill a lot of people, and I feel bad about killing her because I liked her a lot. So this one character in Only Good Indians kind of is there for me. Also there's a character, what's his name? William? I think it's William, from this long story, maybe novella. I don't know how long it is really. I have Interstate Love Affair that he's a serial killer. He goes up and down I-10 in the Southeast from Houston to Florida, pretty much. And he picks people up, lets them ride with him a while, slowly kills them, across 2 or 3 days. And the trick with being a serial killer is disposing of the bodies. That's how you get caught. Generally, I mean, I think from my concept, from I watch Silence of the Lambs. That's what I think, anyways. And his method for body disposal is he gets a 50 nickel, or he goes to the pound, and he says, "Oh, that's my Rottweiler, that's my German Shepherd." He takes them back with him, and then once he's away from eyes, he kills that dog, hollows it out, and then cuts off the leg of whoever he just killed and puts that leg inside the dog's body, and puts that body out on the interstate for the big trucks to run over and flatten, because nobody looks inside a dog on the highway for anything. You just let it turn to whatever it turns to. I don't know what it turns to, but so that's how he gets rid of bodies. And now whenever I'm out driving somewhere and I see an animal on the side of the road, I look at it a little longer, and I wonder what's going on over there. And I wonder if I should have even wrote that story, or I wonder if I should have published that story, because I wonder if I gave somebody ideas. That's always the worst thing that can happen, I guess.
Wow, that would trip me out to have that in my brain. I don't
So
want that in my brain.
I think that brings up an interesting concept.
Mm.
And I have to wonder how many other authors feel that same way.
Yeah.
I think it would be a shame to have to hold back
Mhm.
what you want to do because of somebody else's impulse.
Yeah. I do have a story that I'm holding back for that reason, though. It's a story about a high schooler pulling off a school shooting. And I don't want to put that out in the world, because I think some impressionable person might use that, because it's a pretty good idea, for how to do one of those things. And I would feel forever terrible if that ever got realized, so I haven't written that story.
Where do you think the line, do you think a line should be drawn? I mean, how does someone that line?
Yeah, I think there probably should not be a line, but I think there should be a series of lines that each writer holds himself accountable to. Like, I know how far I'll go and I won't go further. At the same time, writing horror, that's how you're in good horror space, is if you're kind of transgressing a little bit. And you're supposed to. That's what the reader's paying $1.99 for your whatever your piece is, because you'll go 2 steps further than they will. But I do think there is a line, for myself anyways, past which I am seeding bad stuff out into the world. And so the test for me is basically, am I going to feel culpable if somebody does this? That's my test. And I would guess that different writers have different tests. I read some people's stuff and I'm like, you ain't got no lines, dude. But and maybe there shouldn't be lines. I mean, art shouldn't have boundaries drawn around it, or it stops being art. But at the same time, I bet every artist does have lines they won't cross. We can't all be Gigi Allen.
Right.
Sean has written, do you serve in a mentor role for new authors or a member of any writer organizations?
No, I teach an MFA program, so I'm always mentoring a whole a cohort of students for sure. But I am part of the Horror Writers. What is it? Horror Writers of America. That, and maybe 2 or 3 other things. Texas Institute of Letters. But I don't serve in any kind of mentor capacity at any of those, just because of time. Basically, I barely have time to do what I do. So I probably couldn't pick up other stuff, alas. And I'm probably going to start capping stuff off pretty soon, actually.
Oh, come on, being an MFA professor is cake. What's your damage?
Yeah. One of the coolest things about being an MFA professor is probably about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I was up for an award, a big national award, and one of my students was also up for the same award, and she beat me, and that's the coolest thing that can happen, is when your student does that. I was thrilled. I mean, I was sad, but I was thrilled too.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything out there they want to say? Anything they want? Oh, let's see. Stacy writes, I teach middle school reading and always want to recommend horror to my kids. Anything you'd recommend for the young ones, branded as YA or not?
Probably Clive Barker's Thief of Always. It's a pretty good haunted house novel. Sherry Priest has some really good stuff too. Like her what is it? What's the name of it? It's a Lizzie Borden novel about the axe killing. Yeah, I forget what that one's called. That one would probably be pretty appropriate as well, I would think. And the trick is with like middle schoolers, from an adult perspective, we think, oh, we got to throttle back and put a governor on this and not deliver this content. But man, kids, number one, they can take it, but number two, if you make it exotic and illegal for them to get, they're just going to get it more. I think.
So we'll talk about planting ideas into somebody's head.
Yeah, for sure. You can, but the trick is you can also plant good ideas. That's like you can give people hope, and I think that's what I want to do with horror is show the struggle of one underdog person who should not be able to survive or win or overcome. Show them doing that, and hopefully that'll give the reader, the audience, a little bit of suspicion that if they're pushed, they can do this too. They can have that inside them, that kind of resolve.
And why recommended the Graveyard Book.
Yeah, Graveyard Book is really good. I would say Graveyard Book is probably late elementary a little bit.
Yeah.
And Coraline as well. It's in the same level. Coraline is really amazing, I think.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in? I can't. I have to say, this is probably the third time somebody mentions Graveyard Book, and I have not read it yet.
Oh, it's really good. Yeah, really good. Neil Gaiman, I read or heard or somewhere, I know that he started writing that book when he was young, but he realized he was not a good enough writer to write it, so he put it away. And he kept coming back to it every 2 or 3 years and testing out to see if he was a good enough writer. And it took him, 20, 25 years. And he finally became what he considered a good enough writer to write Graveyard Book. And it is a really, really solid book. It's kind of built on the scaffolding of Kipling's The Jungle Book, except for it's not a jungle, it's a graveyard. Yeah.
I have a question. How much would you say where you grew up, like in terms of landscape, kind of comes through in your work?
I think everywhere. I really tell you the truth. I think we can only know the emotional contours of the place we grew up finally. I've moved up here to Colorado, and I know the terrain. I know how to, I'm not saying I know how to go up in the mountains and live necessarily, but I know how to get from here to there on a road anyways. But I think the only landscape I'll ever know the emotional contours of is West Texas. And I say contours, but I don't mean contours because it's flat as can be out there. It's not actually, there's not a lot of contour to it. But I feel like if I write a story set in 2399 and it's on Mars, you peel up that red dirt and it's going to be West Texas under there. I think everywhere I write is going to be West Texas finally.
100. When they landed on Mars, I guess it was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and they showed the Martian sunset. I was like, man, that looks like home.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, especially in March and April when all the dust is blowing. Yeah.
Like straight out. Okay. Anybody else want to add anything? If not, then I have one final question since you ended with it. What has been your experience in that transition between growing up in West Texas and living in Boulder, Colorado? What's that like?
What it means for me is that I think in Boulder, no matter how long I live here, I don't know if I'll ever really know the cultural codes, the little subtle cues that tell people about people. In West Texas, I know them intimately without having to think about them. Just from the way somebody wears their pants or what they do with their hat when they walk into a room and how they park their truck. Those are all things that to me, I can, from the way somebody parks their truck in front of the drive-up burger joint, I think I know everything about them, But here in Boulder, everybody's wearing North Face and I can't make sense. It's weird to me, you know. I can't totally make sense of Boulder, but maybe I'm not supposed to, you know. I don't know.
I think when you grow up with Rocky Mountain jeans, you can't really
Yeah.
go with North Face.
No, you probably can't. No.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for answering that question. That's kind of my thing. I just always wonder about that when I meet
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
from out there.
But sometimes I'll go to, like, I'll be driving on 70 and I'll go through Grand Junction. I'll stop and get a burrito or something. And I step down from my truck and I look around. And I'm like, wow, I know this place, you know, because it's the same. It's got a lot of the same cultural codes that I grew up with, you know, and I just feel at home, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, Wyatt, how are we doing on time? Oh, you're on mute.
We're doing fine on time. I mean, if, we can end it, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate everybody contributing, made a really wonderful conversation and participation. Stephen, thank you so much for being here. Buy your books from us, go to a local bookshop, keep them alive. We appreciate all your support everywhere. So we look forward to seeing you in person sometime. And yeah, safe roads.
Thank you. This has been an honor talking to you. And if I do show up at the bookstore in person, don't be surprised if I'm wearing the same shirt, because I have like 2 nice shirts, you know. And this is one of them.
Me
If
too.
it's got pearl buttons, I can't really tell, then you're on the place with my grandpa. You're good.
Yeah.
Like,
The pearl snaps. Yeah, you gotta have pearl snaps. Yeah.
What I do want to say is thank
Yeah.
you for this, and I am going to definitely put this on my syllabus next time I
Thank you.
teach the New Mexico class, because this
Oh
one
wow,
was
thank you.
fun.
That's an honor. Thank you so much. All right. Well, hey, this was great talking to y'all. This has been nothing but a ball, an honor, a privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Oh.
My dogs are barking, so I'm gonna log off.
Yeah.